Psalm 184. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, now may Israel say, if it had not been the Lord who was on our side, when men rose up against us, when they had swallowed us up quick, when their wrath was kindled against us, then the waters had overwhelmed us, the stream had gone over our soul, then the proud waters had gone over our soul. Blessed be the Lord, who had not given us as a prey to the thief. Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken, and we are escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. As you can see, the title of this message printed out for you in today's program and bulletin, If Not for the Lord. If not for the Lord. In this joyous occasion of our 16th anniversary, I want to bring you, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ, to a careful and thoughtful consideration of what could have been or what could have happened if not for the Lord, who is on our side. Think about it. Today is one joyous occasion of the church that we celebrate year after year. And each time we celebrate this joyous occasion of the church, we do celebrate it by coming together for a time of praise and worship unto the Lord. Gani kung atong mahinumduman, in most occasions na sama niini, we do spend some time to hold our gathering and meeting in some special place outside our church premises for the purpose that we be able to receive and welcome our brethren and friends who are joining us together with our families and dear ones, to join us and to be able to hear the preaching of the word and to rejoice together with us in the goodness of the Lord. That has always been the manner and the practice each time we do observe and keep and celebrate our anniversary Thanksgiving service. However, things are somewhat different this year. Even this morning, as we celebrate our 16th anniversary in this time of pandemic. For obvious reason, this will be for the first time that we're not able to see one another, that we're not able to somehow shake each other's hands and pat each other's shoulders and even give one another a bare hug that we usually do. Gani sa uban ang ilahang bare hug o niya ang ubanan pagyud og kana bang inigsukon nga pakigdait sa usag-usa. Now, of course, to most of our sisters, it would oftentimes be accompanied by a biso-biso. But here we are today, gathered in this manner. Nga naman, because I thought that even when we may be in this difficult time, even when we may be in the midst of great difficulties, even when we may be deprived of that privilege to come together to praise and worship the Lord, I am burdened to hold this gathering, for there are just too many things that we can thank the Lord for even in this time of crisis. And even this gathering that we are having right at this moment, mga kaigsunan, is one thing that we should be thankful to the Lord for, because as I have always been saying, it's one thing that is unimaginable. It is one thing that is unthinkable. And yet, the Lord has opened us this way, even this wide door of opportunity, that we are able to gather together before Him. Gani, mga kaigsunan, if not for this extraordinary situation that we have we may never have the opportunity to hear that song item from our dear brothers and from our brothers from GBI. We may not have the opportunity to hear our brother Chris Bellflower and the family. Yes, as you have heard him say, it's been some time. No? Sakto ako na ba? 19 months.
14,
No?
14.
14 months. Yes. That was how long they were with us here in fellowship with us, worshiping together with us. And yet, tumod niini nga technology, na bisan tuwa sila karon, they have gone back to their home country in Florida. Yet we are able to hear from them, even see them. And I trust that they are also with us, joining us in this joyous occasion. Now, think about the praise item that we have just heard from the children in Binday, in Pangasinan. You know, mga kaitsunan, I did not realize until I asked our Brother Donald. I asked Brother Donald when I received that video, Brother, from which outreach are these children? Because I know very well that our Brother Donald there in Pangasinan has had quite a number of children's outreach scattered all over the province of Pangasinan. But I did not realize that they were actually the children that most of them I really and I personally know and I personally have met. Because those were the children, those children who sang Yesterday, Today, and Forever a while ago. They were the children from Binday, the very place where the work of the gospel in Pangasinan had started. If you can remember our dear sister Cecil Batrina, she was burdened in her heart to invite preachers to go to their place. And lo and behold, in God's own good time, now the church has been established in Dagupan, being the center of the province of Pangasinan. In fact, that very house that children were gathered, they were actually the home of our brother Mario and sister Rowena and children. We are not able to really recognize it right there until our brother Donald told me, oh, ito pala pastor yung taga Binday at ito yung sa bahay ni na brother Mario. And then I realized, yes, I am quite confident that I have met these children, except for a few na nadugang along the way. And we are indeed thankful. Now, if not for this situation that we are in, we surely will not have the opportunity to hear them extending their greetings to us, even with a song item. Nga naman, kaya ang usual nato nga mga greetings is put into writing and is published in the bulletin. But as you can see, there is more life kung makita nimo o padungog nimo ang greetings nga ilahang gi-express. I don't know about you, but while I was viewing here, I tried to contain myself. I don't want to really get stuck to the monitor, but I move about and pray in my heart, Lord, salamat, that even in these most trying times when we are restricted in most of our usual mga routines and usual activities and mobilization, yet the Lord has mobilized through technology that we still can have this meaningful gathering this morning. And why I say meaningful? Because it has been one of its kind. Una, sa sitwasyon na nagkatibulaag ta, yet we are still gathered together. Ikalawa, for the opportunity and privilege to hear all those greetings and exhortation. Now, how can we forget our dear brother Edsel dito sa Bohol? Sa iyaha nga pagpadayag, sa iyaha usab nga kanang greetings nga ni kanato, surrounded sa iyaha nga mga kaubanan. We rejoice together with them sa ilahang anniversary last week, and today they are rejoicing with us. Of course, we are also thankful sa greetings ni Elder Eli. We are glad that he is able to make it, knowing for sure na dili man niya karon pa mahimong nga tapukon sa niyahang kongregasyon to be with him in making that greetings. But nonetheless, we are thankful because that word of exhortation that we have heard from him is extended to us, is for all of us on behalf of our dearly beloved brethren from Bugo and San Antonio. And of course, we do remember also our Deacon Samuel Mingo. He is also supposed to send his greetings, but knowing so well of the many burdens and cares that our Deacon Samuel is going through at this time. And I had a short talk with him kagabi. Yes, he may have the heart to rejoice together with us, and no doubt about it, he is rejoicing with us. But perhaps he just could not bring himself to having a time to really extend his greetings and exhortation to us with all the burdens and cares that he and the family is facing. But nonetheless, we do rejoice knowing that our brother, our Deacon Samuel, is pressing on and enduring and becoming stronger and stronger in his walk with the Lord together with his family. In fact, I also take this opportunity that as we rejoice this day, meaning ato ang 16th anniversary, it could have been also a joyous occasion kung atong makauban dinhi si Jethro Pingo. Kay karong adlaw iya kausap na gihandog ang iyahang adlaw nga natawhan. So there are just too many things. In fact, this very day in itself, daghan na kayong mga hinungdan o rason na angay natong pasalamatan ang Ginoo. Mao kana mga kaigsunan, that as I think about this message that I've been praying and contemplating, I hope you are now able, even before we consider the message, I hope you are now able to say in your heart, yes, if not for the Lord, kung dili pa lang sa Ginoo. Now what is it about God? If not for the Lord, for His grace. If not for the Lord, for His mercy. If not for the Lord, for His faithfulness. If not for the Lord, for His goodness. We could not have been able to come this far as a church. We could not have come this far as a family. We could not have come this far, even this morning, to come and gather together in this manner in the presence of the Lord. No doubt about it, mga kaigsunan. We are in this most troubling and trying times of our life. But think for a moment, what if we go through this time without God? What could have happened? Or what would happen without God? Pause for a moment and think. What if the Lord is not on our side? What if the Lord has abandoned us and has forsaken us? Something for us really to ponder and reflect. Na siguro, in this period of time, now we are now in the month of July, 7 months have passed in this year 2020, and I am sure you would agree with me when I say that this has been indeed an enduring ride, so to speak. Because not one of us actually have thought that this is what 2020 will bring unto us. But you know, mga kaigsunan, rather than looking at things that way, I'd like to encourage you to reflect on these things. We may not be expecting these things in this year 2020, but please know that this is the very thing that God has planned and purposed for us. That if not for the Lord, And so, mga kaigsunan, let's look into this message, even this passage before us, and see for ourselves how the psalmist David here, together with the people of Israel, testified, had it not been for the Lord, if it had not been for the Lord, we can put it in different way, but the message is one and the same. If not for the Lord, if not for the Lord, that's the title of today's message. Because that is the very message of this passage for our consideration this morning. Now, Psalm 124, mga kaisunan, is a psalm of the Greeks. It is one of those psalms that pilgrims would sing as they go and make their way to Jerusalem to worship the Lord in the temple. It is a psalm of David, a psalm wherein David reflected upon the goodness of the Lord diha sa iyahang kinabuhi. Nga sa matag adlaw iya habang gilantaw gipamalandungan. If not for the Lord, di na ko kaabot aning adlaw. If not for the Lord, dili na ko makabato ni ani nga pribilehiyo to go up into Jerusalem to worship. If not for the Lord, I would not be able to make it together with my fellow brethren. This is actually a kind of a personal reflection of the goodness of the Lord in the life of David, nga iya habang gipamalandungan o gisutong diya singkasing-kasing nga bitaw no, kung dili pa yun sa grasya kaluoy sa Ginoo, ikaw na nahuna o kung sa imong isumpay. If not for the Lord, failure. If not for the Lord, loss. If not for the Lord, frustration. If not for the Lord, disappointment. If not for the Lord, pain. If not for the Lord, grief. If not for the Lord, sorrow. Because that is what would our life be if not for the Lord. Gani, standing before you nining kabuntagon mga kaigsunan. If not for the Lord, I will not be here standing before you. David thought about these things when he wrote this psalm. Na kung atong lantaon, maayo po siguro nga mo niya itong tanaw sa itong kinabuhi sa matag adlaw, na sa kada adlaw, in whatever accomplishment, in whatever achievement that we have, Lord, if not for your help, Lord, if not for your grace, dili kay ako na gud ni, I deserve this. And it's the lesson that I want us to consider in here. Nga naman, in these most trying times in our life, dihay mga panahon o dihay mga higayon, that we may have succumbed to all our fears and all our troubles and all the hardship that we have been facing in these past 7 months. Yes, 4 months is the lockdown, but let's face it, we have been in these most trying times right from the very beginning. Now, before we give in to murmur and grumble and complain, might as well think, if not for the Lord, what? It would have been worse. Before ka nga madaog pa sa imong emosyon, Lord, nganong ingon animan? Lord, nganong ingon animan? Nganong ingon animan? With all the why question that we dare ask of the Lord, might as well reflect upon this thought. If not for the Lord, our situation may even worse. And so, in that regard, mga kaigsunan, I want us to consider how David here expressed his thoughts about God diha sa iyahang kinabuhi. Look with me in verse 1 and verse 2, and I want us to consider here how David acknowledged the deliverance that is of God. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, now may Israel say, if it had not been the Lord who was on our side, when men rose up against us, Now, looking at these verses, it will now give you an understanding and impression that David here had in mind a kind of deliverance and even a victory na iyahang naangkon gikan sa mga kaaway. Because he speaks about men who rose against them. And yet, he said, if not for the Lord. Obviously, it would now give us a picture, an impression that indeed, in that particular occasion, that they were able to overcome and even defeat their enemies, he was quick to acknowledge that that deliverance that they had is not of them, but is of God. Muna siya, ingon siya, if it had not been the Lord who was on our side. Sama ba unta sa ato bang kaugalingon nga sa mga sitwasyon bitaw when it could have been worse, unya minunta nga, hay, uwa pag yun ang grasya sa Ginoo. Pero kung sa tao pas kalibutan, once a while, bisan among mga Christians, mingon pag yun, uwa pag yun mabuinas eh. No. It's not about fortune, it's not about luck. It's all about the Lord who is on your side. And that is what David is actually acknowledging here. Na ang kadaugan ni ilahang naangkon, ang kaluwasan ni ilahang naangkon, the deliverance from their enemies, is not their doing, but the doing of the Lord. Look with me in verse 1, and look at what David and how David said it, if it had not been the Lord. Sama sa title sa mga mensahe, if not for the Lord, kung dili pa lang sa Ginoo, kung dili pa lang sa grasya sa Ginoo, kung dili pa lang sa pagubang sa Ginoo kanato, that is what David is actually telling us here. That even when people may have acknowledged him as a great warrior, as a brave, courageous fighter for Israel, he was mindful to acknowledge na ang iyang kadaugan is not his doing, but is the Lord's doing. And just as we would read in another psalm, it is the Lord's doing, and they are precious in our sight. True. David here acknowledged twice. As you can see, he said it in verse 1, and he said it again in verse 2. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side. David testified here, even called the people of Israel to recognize that their deliverance is all about God being on their side. It wasn't just about the Lord being present among them, but he was actually saying that it is because the Lord is working and fighting on their behalf. That after all that they have gone through and have endured and persevered in their battles, perhaps David thought to himself, what if the Lord had not been with them? Sama gyapon kanato, see for yourself where the Lord has brought you karon. Nga taliwa sa krisis, taliwa sa hulga, taliwa sa kahadlok sa kamatayon, niining ikamatay nga sakit. Might as well ask yourself, what if the Lord had not been on our side? What would have happened if the Lord is not among us and is not with us? Gani, sa pamalandong ni David niini, nga sa tanang kadaugan ng iyang angkon, mo katoy nagdala kaniya sa hustong yun na pagtanaw sa tanan. It is all by and of the Lord. And that is why he can say it twice with deep gratitude, if it had not been the Lord who was on our side. Look again, verse 2. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side. You should know that when words, phrases, statements for that matter are repeated, it means important. And more so, for emphasis sake. David wants to be clear on this. Diha siyang kagalingon, and David wants to make it clear among the people of Israel that the deliverance as well as the victory that they have enjoyed is not their doing, but is of the Lord. And you know, mga kaijunan, like David and the people of Israel, in this current situation of pandemic, just when you think that life is tough, think again. For things could have been worse had it not been for the Lord who is on our side. We can only imagine how difficult our situation might have been if not for the Lord. Yes, it's true. I am with you that we are in this time of tribulation. If you know the scriptures well, and if you know God so well, it should not come to you as a surprise. Nga naman, the Lord Himself said that in the world you shall have tribulation. But even when we may be subjected to all this tribulation in this world, Jesus promised, be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. That is our comfort. And so as we reflect upon our situation, no matter how difficult things might have been, think about it this way. It could have been even worse if not for the Lord. Not only that David here acknowledged that deliverance is of God, coming down to verse 3 up until to verse 5, David here brings to our attention his anticipated defeat and destruction apart from God. Meaning, kung dili pa lang yun sa Ginoo nga nagauban kaniya, mauna-unta na nahitabo kanila. Okay? If you notice the verses, verse 1 and 2, if, condition. And the consequence, then. Kita niyo, verse 3, 4, and 5, then. Kung dili pa lang sa Ginoo, mauni mahitabo. Are you able to see it, mga kaibigan? If, verse 1 and 2, then, verse 3, up to verse 5. So, David is actually saying here na kung dili pa lang sa Ginoo nga nag-uban ka na to, mao kini nahitabo ka na to, verse 3. Mao kini nahitabo ka na to, verse 4. Mao kini nahitabo ka na to, verse 5. We are actually seeing here David's anticipated defeat. Meaning, alam kang David, if not for the Lord, pildi siya. He had that anticipated defeat, even destruction, if not for the Lord. Now, notice here the threefold sequence of what could have happened to him and to Israel if not for the Lord. Verse 3, they could have been devoured by their enemy. Now, why I say devoured? Look at verse 3. Then they, referring to their enemies, then they had swallowed us up quick when their wrath was kindled against us. Now, the word quick there, it can be so tempting to look at it and say that this would mean they could have swallowed as quick as if, meaning fast or rapid. Kanang dali nakita nila kaon. No. Although it may sound and appear like that, but remember King James translated 1611, the word quick there is an old English word for alive. So David here is actually saying, if not for the Lord, we could have been eaten and swallowed alive by our enemies. It's not just about being swallowed quick, nagitukob na yun ka. Although the idea may be tempting to be that way, but it is even more than that. Nga naman, when you are being eaten and swallowed alive, simply means you are helpless. You're not able to fight. You're not able to defend yourself. That you can only be swallowed and eaten up alive by your enemy. Yes, that's the idea behind the word there, quick. It's an old English term for alive. The same as we read in Ephesians chapter 2, you were once dead, but you have been quickened. You have been made alive. Gani mga kitsunan, I still remember that term back in my nursing days, that the moment the baby in the mother's womb start to move, that is called quickening. And that's the idea behind the word here. They had swallowed us up quick when their wrath was kindled against us. Meaning, they surely are helpless before their enemies. And if not for the Lord, they could have been devoured, eaten, and swallowed alive by their enemies. You know, the picture there is about a wild beast catching and waiting upon the prey. You know, when we talk about this prey and the predator, it always brings to us a picture of a helpless and defenseless, tiny little creature right before a huge beast. Nagustuhon man niya nga dipinsahan niyang kagalingon, huwag siya ikasarang mahimo pagdipinsa siyang kagalingon, that he will always be eaten and swallowed up alive. And that is how David described his defeat. Now, if not for the Lord, gilamuhin namin sa among mga kaaway. How else did David describe his defeat, if not for the Lord? Come down to verse 4. Then the waters had overwhelmed us, the stream had gone over our soul. Now, what is being illustrated and described there? Verse 3, they could have been devoured. Verse 4, speaking about waters overwhelming them, they could have been drowned. That's the idea. That's the picture that he is trying to describe. If not for the Lord, they could have been devoured by their enemy. If not for the Lord, they could have been drowned. They could have been overpowered. They could have been overcome. They could have been overwhelmed by their enemies. And true indeed. As we reflect upon these consequences, mga kaigsunan, anticipated defeat, you know, kung atong lataw kung ang atong kinabuhi, if not for the Lord, we could have been long devoured sa ato ang mga problema. We could have been drowned by all the pressure and the stresses of life. If not for the Lord. Yes, dili naman siguro bako alam ninyo, in this difficult time that we are in, there were sad incidents of people committing suicide. Simply because they ran out of hope. Gani, I don't know how accurate the news I have come across tungod sa kagutom somewhere in Mindanao, usa kay naman giluto ang iyang mga anak. Nga kung mamamalandong ta, we can only thank the Lord that we have not come to that point sa atuang kinabuhi. But it doesn't mean that it cannot happen to others. Pilabi na sa mga tao na walay Ginoo sa ilahang mga kinabuhi. O mao kana mo nang isun nga nining kabuntagon buot na ako nga dasigon mo kamo, that even in the midst of these most difficult and trying times, if it's not for the Lord, it could have been worse. And so what? We need to be thankful unto Him. If not for the Lord, if not for the Lord. Yes, we have heard of disparate situations and incidents that has brought people into doing and committing unimaginable acts, horrible acts. Nga naman, for obviously, to them, they have run out of hope. To them, they have run out of ideas on how to deal with it. What about you? What about us? You know, mga kaibigan, I have been saying this again and again. Wala pa puntang mabot sa anak na pala sitwasyon na punto na we become so desperate na magigilog na punta diha na mauna tas linya sa distribution sa mga hinabang. Now, this should not be something that we must be proud of, but we should be thankful of na, Lord, even when times indeed are difficult, thank you. Kaya we know na ikaw padayon nga nakauban. Yes. As for David, if not for the Lord, they could have been devoured, they could have been drowned. And then what? Look at verse 5. And notice how David there acknowledged they could have been destroyed. Now, look at what verse 5 says. Then the proud waters had gone over our soul. Now, imagine there the picture that David is trying to describe. Not only nga nalunod siya, but rather, he is like about to be submerged. Nga matabunan na gid siya sa tubig, nga wala gid paglaom na magkakapakapa. Look at verse 5 again. Then the proud waters, now the proud waters there is referring to a kind of experience that brings about great destruction on the part of the person. So much so that this proud water here, so powerful, so mighty a pressure, like rushing of the river, would have gone over their soul. Matagkaroon o kunya, we do experience flooding. And the idea of proud waters is very much like that strong current of water, the surging water. Proud waters, nagdahunog na tubig, bulog sa tubig. That's the idea of proud waters. Now, how are you able to resist that strong surge of water? What? Anuron ka. We hear that many occasions, right? Na in rainy season, some children would love to take a swim by the river, not realizing that there is a strong surge of water coming from the mountain. What happens next? Not only that he is drowned, he is destroyed. Gani ang ato ang madunggan nga gikan diha sa Pas, Guadalupe, dito na po nitong Scampon sa Basil. Ano man? Because of the strong surge. That's the idea behind the word there. Proud waters. The strong, mighty, powerful surge of water. Now, David here said that the proud waters had gone over our soul. Now, for a mere human without God, how would he ever resist that strong, overpowering, and overwhelming surge of water? You can only be destroyed. You can only be devastated. It will only bring you to your death. Isa kung sa pag-eksperto ni mo kumulangoy, o ihapak na kasdan ko kayo na soul sa tubig, you can't. You're helpless. And that is what David here is trying to describe unto us, that if not for the Lord, they could have been devoured. If not for the Lord, they could have been drowned. If not for the Lord, they could have been destroyed. Now, what is it that David is trying to tell us? He is actually telling us that if not for the Lord, they can never accomplish nor achieve even one small and little victory for themselves. And this I want also to be impressed upon each one of you. We have come this far. Those of you who was able to chant upon my devotion this morning, it is all the Lord's doing. The Lord has done great things for us. We have come this far as a church, not because of any man's doing. It is all the Lord's doing. All of it. He accomplishes what He plans and purpose for the church in and through people, yes, but it's never all about people. If not for the Lord, isn't it? If not for the Lord. And indeed, mga kaigsunan, reflecting upon this anticipated defeat and destruction that David described here in verse 3, 4, and 5, sama kanila mga kaigsunan, we could have been devoured, or may have been drowned, or totally must have been destroyed in this time of crisis. Thanks be unto God that in the midst of these troubled times, by His grace, anaagihapon ta. Nahimo gihapon nato ang pagtigom niining adlaw, niining buntaga, with that desire to praise Him and worship Him because of all that He is and all that He does sa atuang mga kinabuhi. And so, may I encourage you, ako mga kaigsunan, that as we ponder upon this message, ponder upon this in your life as well. Diin ka kang dapita karon if not for the Lord. Unsa kay dagat sa imong kinabuhi karon if not for the Lord. Mura gina, if not for the Lord. Diin ka as an individual, diin ka mo as a family, if not for the Lord. Gani, nalanta ko ganiha na nag-awit ang ato ang mga kaigsunan from care ministry. I rejoice in my heart, thanking the Lord, seeing them and listening to them singing. And most of all, I can only thank the Lord that in this period of COVID-19, naa sila sulod sa care ministry. Nga naman, some of these people may not even been welcome to their own families and homes. So that would what? Bring them to the streets. In this time of pandemic, think about that. If not for the Lord, to our brethren at care ministry, if not for the Lord, ngaunta niining kabuntagon as we rejoice and give thanks for our 16th anniversary, rejoice and give thanks also for the goodness of the Lord in your life. It all would bring us back to this thought, if not for the Lord. In fact, kung man nga gisaysay ni David din he already had acknowledged that their deliverance is of God, and kung man nga iyahang gi-acknowledge that anticipated defeat and destruction, if not for God, coming down to the remaining 3 verses from verse 6 to verse 8, David here affirmed dependence upon God. And how did David affirm his dependence upon God? Verse 6, by praising God for His help. Look at what David said in verse 6. Blessed be the Lord who had not given us as a prey to their teeth. Nagyunsan po niya paghulagway diha. Ganiha ang iyang kapildihan o ang iyang kadautan, gihulagway niya sama sa tubig na siya lunuron o anuron lumsan mamatay. And earlier, gihisama niya sa wild beast eating up a prey. Nibalik na po siya diha sa maong kulagway. No? Ingon diha, blessed be the Lord who had not given us as a prey to their teeth. Now obviously, when David here said, blessed be the Lord, it is actually a resounding outburst of praise unto God. Lord, I praise you. Lord, I thank you for delivering us from our enemies, from delivering us from harm and danger. That is what it means. It is not bestowing a blessing upon the Lord, but actually on thanking and praising and exalting the name of the Lord. When the Lord bless us, that is God bestowing upon us blessing. But when we bless God, we actually give to Him honor, praise, and glory. Now, in these 16 years of the church, yes, we would have that fondness to look back at the early days of the church. But may I encourage you also that in this joyous occasion, why not look back at your own life? Where you could have been, or what might have been, if not for the Lord. So doon nga diya sa inyong mga kasing-kasing mga kaibigan. You could have been a prey to the teeth of your predator. Look down in verse 7. Our soul is escaped because the Lord is on their side, right? You can say that. Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken and we are escaped. O bitaw ka na mga kaigsunan na oftentimes when we refer to God's working in us and keeping us away from harm, we always think of it as God's deliverance. We are being delivered from what could have been our end or what could have been our life, our death. Yet, because the Lord is on our side, like David here said in verse 7, our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. That even when we have been caught up in the snare, what happens? The snare is broken. In other words, God opened up a way of escape for us. The snare is broken and we are escaped. Here is another imagery and picture of God's deliverance from harm. And then the second manner in which David affirmed dependence upon God is by proclaiming confidence in God. Look at verse 8 now. Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. I want us to notice there what David proclaimed. Our help. He did not just say our help is in the Lord. He did say our help is in the name of the Lord. Obviously, the name of the Lord here is the name Jehovah, the covenant name of God. As you can see, the word Lord there is all capital. It refers to God's covenant name, Yahweh or Jehovah. And it speaks of His character. It speaks of His faithfulness, His presence, His power, and all of His attributes. And so, when David here said, our help is in the name of the Lord, it is with much confidence na tungod kay ang iyahang tabang gikan sa Ginoo, wala gyud pwedeng mahitabo kaniya na makadaot diha kaniya. Onya, what else did he invoke in here? Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and the earth. Now, if this God who is my help is so great and mighty and so powerful that He is able to create the heaven and the earth out of nothing and by the power of His word, will there be anything impossible to Him? That is the point that David is trying to emphasize here. Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. Indeed, here is a bold declaration of one's confidence in God, the Almighty One, the Creator of heaven and earth. Now, if you have God on your side, the one true and living God who created the heaven and the earth out of nothing, do you think there is anything too hard for Him? I want to end this message, mga kaibigan, by going back to where we started. What if the Lord was not on our side? What if the Lord was not on our side? Pause for a while. Reflect upon these things. What if the Lord was not on our side? Yes. Lisod ang kinabuhi. Pait. It could have been worse if not for the Lord that is on our side. That, dearly beloved brethren and friends, we may be in a very difficult situation. It is given. But think for a moment of how things would have been if not for the Lord who was on our side. You know, mga kaibigan, kung ato lang yun yung pamalandungan pa kayo, just as I have been reflecting on this message for some time, I am pricked in my heart each time na maglantaw ko sa akong kaugalingon na diin makadala ka nato sa kanang spirit of complaining, spirit of questioning, spirit of challenging God. And would be reminded that yes, had it not been the Lord who was on our side, I can only wonder kung miabot pa pagtaninin ang lawa. Had it not been the Lord who was on our side, we can only wonder what would have happened sa ato ang pamilya. Daghan ka na to, nakapsan o nawatan sa trabaho o panginabuhian ni panahon sa lockdown. Lisod ang kinabuhi. But, think about it. We are still here. Nagkatigong gihapon ta, nagkatapok gihapon ta. How is it? And why is it? If not. And so, mga kaibigan, as we reflect upon these things in kabuntagon and have considered this message this morning, mga kaibigan, let us continue to look up to God and to fix our eyes upon Him and make Him as our focus. Nga sa matag higayon nga ito ang matagagdaman ang kapait o ang kalisod sa kinabuhi. Think of it this way. If not for the Lord, if not for the Lord, yes, in these past 16 years as a church, as we reflect upon all the challenges, the tough times that we have been through as a church, but as well reflect upon our own lives as well. Because our lives is also part of the church. We are the church. Na siguro ato ang sutumon o pamalandungan. And may we be quick to be humbled in our hearts to acknowledge it is because the Lord has been on our side. Kung sama sa ato ang naging pamalandungan, kaya I've shared with you from this in our devotion. The Lord has done great things for us, whereof we are glad. It is a humble declaration, it is a joyful declaration, and it is a grateful declaration. Another way of saying, if not for the Lord, that is on our side. And so, mga kaigsunan, my dearly beloved brothers and sisters in the Lord, together with all our brethren and friends who are with us, times may be tough, but we all have the reason to rejoice in the Lord, for He has done great things for us.